Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Making another video about another Horus variant here. This is one that I didn't initially plan to play, but I actually saw, I think it was the opponent of one of our viewers in last year's special was on this deck, and it got me a little bit curious about it, so I decided to try it, and ultimately have been having a lot more fun with this build than I thought I was going to. The build here, of course, is going to be Horus Naturia. So, the idea of this deck is that Camellia is a level 4 tuner, and the Horus cards are level 8 non-tuners. So, that means that we can very easily spam a bunch of level 12 synchros, multiple even in a turn. I wonder what we could possibly do spamming multiple level 12 synchros in a turn. Yeah. So the turn 1 combo line for this deck, I won't lie to you all, it's going to be focused on turboing out the King Calamity. And it's actually really easy to do that in this deck, but I will say this much too, if you're like kind of rolling your eyes and you're like, oh, it's just Calamity Turbo, there is a lot more that goes into playing this deck besides just that, especially if you go first, and the majority of the games that we're going to see are not going to be featuring Calamity locks, so definitely stay tuned to check those out. But I mean, I kind of had a similar thought when I first, threw this list together. I was like, it's just Calamity Lock Turbo. How much fun could this deck really be? I was pleasantly surprised by it because, like I said, although that is your main turn 1 combo line, combo lines get disrupted, right? Things don't always go to plan, and also sometimes, again, you go second. So you might be wondering, okay, what is a deck that's all about just spamming out Calamity? Like, what do you actually do if you go second? Well, a lot of the time in that case, it kind of turns into Horus Beatdown, because these bodies are actually very solid in their own right. That is something I kind of underestimated about this archetype when I was first reviewing them. I think I even said in my initial video, like, oh, could a pure Horus deck even work? Because you actually expect to just, like, run all 4 of these out and then pass on that. And while I don't think that's a good turn 1 play, what I kind of failed to take into account is how powerful that could potentially be on turn 2. Not only because all these monsters have really good bodies and are able to battle over a lot of inboard stuff, like, relatively easily, but if your opponent does start trying to pick them off as you try to battle over their stuff, then all of their effects are going to start kicking into, with Imseti, send a card in the field to the grave, with Dumatef draw a bunch, with Hoppy add stuff back, with Kibesnif, then it'll prevent further targeting, and we are actually playing Horus the Black Flame Deity. This card, while not the greatest, has kind of surprised me with how decent it's been. I probably wouldn't play it in a lot of Horus variants. The only reason I'm really playing it here, a couple of reasons. One, we have the main deck space. The main deck, and extra deck, honestly, for this deck is kind of wide open because your game plan is so, like, hyper focused on one thing. I mean, I say that, but again, we do a lot more besides just Calamity locking here. But not only that, again, we are actually playing like all 4 of the Horus monsters. So, and also the field spell, we're playing 3 of it. So this is definitely the deck where the Black Flame Deity is at its most likely to shine. I mostly played my 1 copy I pulled here just to see how much I liked it, to see if I thought it was worth it, and I kind of think it is, actually. Again, there's not a lot of Horus variants I would play this. Certainly not like Horus Tier Limit or anything like that. But again, this list was fairly wide open. We're playing all of the main deck monsters anyway for the archetype, so I figured we'd go ahead and give it a shot. Yep, so also on that note, we are playing just 1 of each Kibesnif, Hoppy, and Dumatef, but 3 of each of Imseti, King Sark, and Walls of the Imperial Tomb, because you want to access King Sarcophagus as much as possible. To do the Calamity Turbo Lock, by the way, I keep saying Turbo, to do the Calamity Lock on turn 1, by the way, all you really need is access to King Sarcophagus and access to Camellia. So you could open Imseti or the walls for Imseti, or just the King Sarcophagus itself. And on the Naturia side, you could open Camellia, or you could open Mole Cricket for Camellia, or you can also open Sacred Tree, and that's actually good to open in this deck, because you can send it with Imseti and King Sarcophagus, and then you're good to go. In fact, if you open Imseti and Sacred Tree, that is a full combo line by itself. You don't even need to discard any of the other cards you open, and you also still end on an extra card that you draw off of Imseti's effect. So that's pretty sweet. You can even discard the card that you search off of Camellia, if you choose to send like a Sacred Tree off Camellia's effect, because, well, you might think, oh, so we get the Camellia back with Blessing. You don't even have to do that, because we're playing Synchro Rumble, which is searchable by the Crimson Dragon. Some people might not have known this, but Crimson Dragon does have an on-summon search effect for a card, a spell trap card, that mentions it. And Synchro Rumble not only mentions the Crimson Dragon, down here at the bottom somewhere, yeah, but also can bring back a tuner from the graveyard. Note that you are synchro locked after you do this, so if you do the combo line that way, you can't like make a rank 8 afterward or a link summon, right? But yeah, I mean, it's still just a very consistent combo line. And not only do we have Horus plays to fall back on, but we can also just do Naturia stuff. Like, we're going to see a replay here where we only really open Naturia cards, and that's also fine, because then you can just end on Beast plus, like, the Sunflower setup, and then you're good to go from there, right? As far as our level 12 synchros, we of course have the Crimson Dragon and the Calamity. The Crimson Dragon does delete under level 12 to target. We have two options. If you go for the Synchro Rumble line, like kind of the main combo line, again, I'll show this off. I'll actually show both iterations off here. You then make the Geomathmech Final Sigma in the extra monster zone, because if you put it there, it'll be unaffected. Not only have you ended on a Calamity, but also a 3k Towers monster as well. But if, for example, you make like an IP before you go into your synchro plays, which again you can do sometimes, and we'll see gameplay of that, then I would make a Brave Musarao in the main monster zone. Basically, though, you want to make sure that you are using, level 12 synchros that only take one tuner plus one or more non-tuner monsters. There are a lot of level 12 synchros out there that take multiple non-tuners, but we're syncing with Camellia plus one of our Horus monsters, so 4 plus 8. So I picked the two best generic targets in that regard, in my opinion, in the form of Final Sigma and Brave Musarao. We do have some rank 8s as well. We, of course, have the kind of Photon Galaxy Eyes Negators. Giant Trainer is cute, like the idea of, like, you know, you get to draw 3 and deal 2400, but honestly hasn't really come up for me. Zombie Vamp. Zombie Vamp might look a little weird in a deck like this. You might think, like, why are you even playing this? You don't even have that much stuff you want to mill. But if you open a hand where you, and we're gonna see an example of this in the games. If you open a hand where you only have access to King Sark, you can potentially go into Zombie Vamp and then mill like a Sacred Tree, and then boom, now you can access your Naturia Camellia, and not only that, but you can do your full Calamity Lock setup there, with other bodies on the board as well, so. A lot of stuff going on with this deck. Again, I know there are some people who are going to see this list and roll their eyes, but I promise you that this deck does a lot of cool stuff, so. I'm going to break it down card by card. The first two replays we're going to see are going to be very short, because those are just going to be me demonstrating the turn 1 combo line. However, we'll have more replays afterward that will, in fact, feature a lot more like back and forth interactive gameplay. So, for the list here, we are on 3 Naturia Mole Cricket, 1 Naturia Sunflower, 3 Maxi, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 Naturia Camellia, 3 Imseti Glory of Horus, 1 Dumatef Blessing of Horus, 1 Hoppy Guidance of Horus, 1 Kibesinif Protection of Horus, 1 Horus the Black Flame Deity, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Synchro Rumble. We got 3 Walls of the Imperial Tomb, 3 King Sarcophagus, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Cross-Eye Designator, 3 Naturia Blessing, 3 Infinite Impermanence, and then 3 Naturia Sacred Tree. And that'll do it for our main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Naturia Beast, 1 Naturia Barkion, 1 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, 1 Geomathmech Final Sigma, 1 Super Heavy Samurai Brave Musarao, 1 Crimson Dragon, 1 Coach King Giant Trainer, 1 number 38 Hope Harbinger Titanic Galaxy, 1 number 90 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, 1 The Zombie Vampire, 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus Sky Thunder, 1 Linkuriboh, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 SP Little Knight, and then 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. There's our list. Let's see those games now. Okay, so these first two opponents, it's not really gonna matter what they're on, to be totally honest. I think this person, I will say was on a really cool deck, Horus Gate Guardian, that I might end up trying at some point, but Yeah, first couple games, we're not going to see too much from our opponents. I'm mostly just going to be showing you some turn 1 combo lines with the deck. So, as you can see here, we did open Imseti plus Sacred Tree. Again, if I had to pick 2 cards to open for my combo line, you know, out of all of them, I would pick Imseti plus Tree, because this will be your full setup. You don't even need to discard any of the other cards in your hand necessarily, unless you want to, right? So yep, Imseti effect will send itself and Tree to add the King's Sarcophagus and then draw an extra card. Sacred Tree F will add the Naturia Camellia. We're going to throw down the King's Sarcophagus and then normal summon the Camellia. Camellia F will send another tree. Sacred Tree is not once per turn, so we'll get to add a Naturia Blessing with that. King Sark F will pitch the extra King Sarcophagus, send the Hoppy to the graveyard. Gonna bring back Hoppy by its own effect, and then sync it with the Camellia to make our first 12 Crimson Dragon. Gonna make Crimson Dragon first, that way we can get the Synchro Rumble, and then use that to summon back the Camellia. Of course, after we summon the Imseti, yep, there's Synchro Rumble. We could also use Naturia Blessing. Like, if you don't want to get Synchro locked, you can use Naturia Blessing, but I tend to use Synchro Rumble for the turn 1 combo line, if possible, so there you have it. I mean, it's literally just as simple as that. As you can see, I'm activating the Crimson Dragon during the draw phase. This is actually pretty important. Or just in general, like, don't activate Crimson Dragon as Chain Link 2 or higher. Because the King Calamity, if we read the effect, it's a when effect. It says when this card is synchro summoned. It's not an if, a when, which means it can miss timing. So if you use Crimson Dragon as Chain Link 2 or higher, then Calamity will miss timing, because the last thing to happen wasn't Calamity being summoned, it was whatever effect Chain Link 1 was. So I usually just do it during the draw phase. Like, of course you have to have your toggle held on to do that, and make sure you want to do that anyway, but yeah, no, I think that's the safest time, and I think our opponent is just going to concede right here. Yeah, because they know what's up. I think a lot of people know, like, oh, okay, Crimson Dragon targeting a 12, I know what's coming. So, I mean, who knows? I could be summoning Quasar. No, it's gonna be Calamity, but yeah. So, like I said, first couple of these are gonna be really quick. Let's see the next one for more turn 1 plays. All right, this opponent's on Tearlament, and again, though, we're not going to really see anything from them. This one's not even going to go into their turn, but I want to show you another way that we can set up the turn 1 combo. So this hand here, right, you might see a hand like this and think, ah, dang, you know, I have the King Sarcophagus, which is good, but I don't really have access to Camellia here. I just have Sunflower and Blessing, so, you know, what can I do in a situation like this? Well, you might think like, oh, you know, I'll just end on, I'll stump all the Horus cards, then end on 38 plus number 90, right? A monster and a spell trap negate, not bad. But you can actually do better, and you can do it fairly easily. We're going to make Zombie Vamp instead of one of the, or well, both of the negating rank 8s here. I'm going to lead with King Sark, send the flower for Imseti. Now here I elected to send the Infinite Impermanence. I hedged a little, well, mainly I wanted to see if the Black Flame Deity would end up coming up this game. Like, you know, I figured if I whiff on my mills, I could just bring back some Horus monsters and have this available potentially, but I absolutely don't want to send the Blessing, right? I want to keep the Naturia Blessing, that way if I mill Camellia or Mole Cricket off of my Zombie Vamp, I can bring it back with Blessing. Right, so I'm going to bring back the Imseti and the Kibesnif. Going for, as I mentioned before, Zombie Vampire. Zombie Vampire effect activating, and whoo, look at these mills from our opponent. Actually, there we go. Now let's look at these mills from our opponent. That is scary! We milled them the Emerald Tortoise, funnily enough, because they're on the Rainbow Bridge of Salvation, but we also milled them Rev Synchron, Rhino Heart, and Shiren. Wow, wowie, wow, wow, wow. So what I had to do here is I had to grab Shiren. Not that I really wanted to summon like my own Maxi that much anyway, but I had to summon Shiren here and basically hope that my opponent did not have a tier limit card in hand to bring back the Rhino Heart. And fortunately for me, they did not. Yep, as you can see here, we did go to the next, you know, action without them activating Rhino Heart effect. So I'm going to link off the Shiren and go for the IP Masquerena with that and Zombie Vamp. And basically, this is how you set up Calamity, plus also have an IP in the mix, right? Anyway, now I'm going to normal summon the Camellia, send a Tree, Tree F, probably just add... They're not even going to wait, they're just going to concede right there. I don't know, I'd probably just add a Mole Cricket there. Like, having that set up in the graveyard is definitely not too bad, of course. But, I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out from there, right? Like, we just King Sark a couple of times, send, like, the Mole Cricket and the Horus, the Black Flame Deity. I'd probably just send that. And then send the other two 8s, which I believe were Dumatef and Hoppy. The reason I sent specifically Kebesnif is because it is, like, the worst, I guess, quote-unquote, out of them. So, to have on the field, like, as far as, like, its bonus effect triggering. So, that's why I went for that one first, to overlay and make Zombie Vamp with. But, yeah, no, again, not a full game, not even a full turn 1 there, but that is an example of how you can go into the line, even if you don't open access to the Naturia Camellia. But now, I promise these next games are going to be, like, more back and forth. So let's start hopping into those. Alright, so this opponent will be on the Dinos, good old dinosaurs. Not a deck that you should sleep on, by the way. Like, Dinos are really, really good. Dinosaur is one of those decks that I think is only really rogue right now because of how relatively little play it sees. I think if more people were on it, it would actually be represented as a tier 3 deck. Here, I have to set Call By and pass. Not really much else I can do. But it might actually end up being enough, as we're going to Call By our opponent's Miscellaneousaurus. Of course, hitting the Miskir is really good. It not only stops the first effect, which to be fair, we don't have hand traps anyway, but more importantly, they also won't be able to banish it and summon a dinosaur from the deck. So here, they're forced to summon Scrap Chimera, attack us directly, set 1, and then pass it back over. Our hand gets a lot better with Walls of the Imperial Tomb. Yeah, we got pretty unlucky with this hand in particular, not opening any plays whatsoever. That is honestly extremely rare for this deck. So here the opponent is going to get to use the Called By on the Imseti. Definitely not ideal. I really, really wanted that King Sarcophagus here. But we did already pitch the Sacred Tree. So if nothing else, I can have access to Naturia plays. And, you know, honestly, this is one of those decks where even if you can only access half of the engine, it's really not that bad. Because as you can see here, we get to Mole Cricket for 2 monsters because our opponent does have the strongest monster in play. Funnily enough, their Scrap Chimera beats out our whole board right now. But because we have 2 Blessing, we can make the Naturia Beast. Mole Cricket comes back by its own effect and then use the other Blessing for a Camellia. And after battling over the Chimera with Beast and then smacking them with Camellia and Sunflower, now as you can see, we're in a really, really good spot. As our opponent has to play through multiple monster negates and more or less infinite spell negates, which, as you can see here, they don't really have any inclination to do. So, the other kind of funny thing about this deck is that, honestly, it almost doesn't matter what kind of a board you put up. As long as you put up some kind of a board, it's usually the kind of board your opponent's just like, dust their hands like, nope, I'm out, I don't want to deal with this. Whether it's the Calamities, whether it's the Naturia setup, a lot of people are just like, nope, I do not want to deal with this. So, can get some pretty quick wins in that regard. We do have a couple more games to watch. Let's see the next one. Alright, next duel will be against Unchained. Unchained. Let's see, I actually don't remember who goes first here. Okay, we are going second. I thought we had at least one going second game. Yep. As you can see, this would have been a pretty good going first hand. We would have had a full Calamity lock here. They're going to set a card, then Foolish the Shyama. Shyama F to pop the card they set. We're definitely going to want to chain our Maxi to that. But I was going to say, I remember they did have a response to it. Looks like it's going to be Called By in this case. So, we have an Imperm. We can potentially make use of that as well. Of course, I do know now also that it is going to be Unchained. So, in that regard, I'm not as worried only having access to Imperm. Like, I know the choke point for this deck, so. Summoning Sharvara off their spell I thought was kind of interesting, going for the Unchained Soul Lord of Yama F, and Sharvara will also activate, and this is where I'm going to use my Imperm on the Yama. But unfortunately for me, they have another response. This time it is the Cross Out Designator. So they did have the card to counter the Imperm on top of the Call By for the Maxi. So no disruptions for me. This will end up being a full combo for them. Even if it started a little bit weirdly, like for the Foolish for Shyama, but no, they can still, yeah, pop the trap card with the Aruha, summon the Shyama back, yep, and then they have the Sarama in hand already. Okay, I see, yep. There's the Rakia. This could be the Unchained Soul of Rage. Yep. Rakia will use its... Or no, Shyama will pop the Rakia. And then... Oh, they actually activated Yama's effect. Interesting. Oh, wait, Wait, did they have to? No. They could have used... Why didn't they summon one from deck, huh? Okay, whatever. I just realized that. Yeah, why didn't they use Chirama to summon one from deck? They summoned the one from graveyard. I don't know, that was really weird, but anyway. So here I'm going to use the Imseti to pitch the King Sark, activating Walls of the Imperial Tomb. We're going to use that to grab the Horus, the Black Flame Deity, because I thought that might actually come up here in this situation. This is one of the cases where I'm just going to try to go for Horus Monster Beatdown, basically. As you can see, as soon as King Sarcophagus touches the field, they are going to use their Unchained Trap card to destroy it. Unchained Soul of Rage will wheel back the Sarama to their hand. Alright, here's Imseti. Going to normal summon the Camellia as well. Now, the thing about the Horus, the Black Flame Deity here that is a little bit awkward is that I can't summon it yet while the Caesar is in play. Otherwise, you know, I can't really summon much of anything. Otherwise, they'll just negate it. Well, I guess I could have synchro summoned for a 12, but... And if you're wondering why the Wave King Caesar didn't negate Imseti coming back from the graveyard, that's because the Horus monsters, except for Black Flame Deity, do not use chain links to summon themselves. The 4 ones that summon from the graveyard, Imseti, Hoppy, Dumatef, and Kebesnif, those all summon off of their own effects again without actually starting a chain link, kind of the same way that Diabel summons herself from hand. So that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that you can, manage to get around a lot of stuff, like the Wave High King Caesar, just kind of niche stuff in that regard. But yeah, it's a pretty simple game there against Unchained. Got one more to see. Let's finish off with that one. Okay, and the last one's going to be against Branded. And I think we go second for this one, too. No, I think we go first. No, we do go second. I shouldn't have second-guessed myself. So here we did open an Imperm. I think there is a part of me that wants to take out the Black Flame Deity and maybe 1 or 2 other cards for, like, maybe some Veilers or other hand traps, but... Alright, looks like they got the Saronir, but then set 2 and passed. We drew the Camellia here, which is pretty big. Gonna lead with King Sark, send the Dumatef from hand to send Hoppy from deck. Normal summoning Camellia, they're gonna Veiler it. That's actually fine. Like, well, I mean, it'd be a little bit more fine if it was turn 1. But yeah, for turn 1, like, your Camellia can get Veilered, Impermed, or Ash, and you can just play through that. Like, you don't actually need the Camellia Search in order to do the big Calamity board. So they do have a Super Poly here, and Kebesnef is Earth, meaning they can Super Poly it with the Camellia for the Mud Dragon here. This does proc the Hoppy effect, though, which is pretty cool. So we can use that to then add back a couple of cards here. Also, Horus the Black Flame Deity procs here. So I get to summon it from my hand, but I'm actually not going to use the effect to send the monsters to the graveyard because it sends all other monsters on the field to the graveyard, including my own. So I definitely want to keep that in play. But we do get some of the Black Flame Deity here as an extra 3k body. Alright, Saronir coming down as I go to call by. Oh yeah, I did that so that way I could send Imseti and then actually bring it back without having to worry about the Saronir. Gonna move to battle phase here. Our opponent's going to use Fusion Duplication, Super Polying yet again, this time the Mud Dragon with the Imseti, in order to summon out the Predaplant Dragostapelia. Thankfully, Dragostapelia, when it negates, only negates activated effects. So that means that my Dumatef will actually keep its boosted attack points, because it doesn't negate effects of cards, it just stops effects that are activated. But the effect to boost its own attack points for Dumatef is not an activated effect, right? So we're good there. Alright, going into main phase 2, we were not able to finish our opponent off, but we did put them in top deck mode, so I'm going to make Hope Harbinger set Imperm. That way we can stop spell effects as well as monster effects, and we should be good here. I don't really think there's any one card they could top deck to get around both. They actually top deck an Albaz, funnily enough, but again, here is the Imperm to put an end to that. They actually did know that I had the Imperm because I added it back from grave to hand with Hoppy, actually, so that was kind of funny, but there we have it. Boom, there it is. Yeah, this deck, it's sweet. I like it a lot. I really had a lot of fun playing Horus Naturia. There was one other game, I thought I had saved it, or maybe, oh, I think it was on stream, I think that's what it was, but I had another game too where, like, I had, like, all 4 of the Horus monsters out, and then also, like, I think a random Naturia Mole Cricket or something, and my opponent removed the Mole Cricket for some reason, and I was like, okay, trigger all 4 of the Horus monsters' effects, and they, like, conceded shortly afterward. It was good. Yeah, I thought I saved that one, but I guess I didn't. Shoot. Oh, well. But there you go. There is a brief insight into how this deck plays. Again, it's not always just Calamity Turbos. As you can see, the majority of our games were actually won by doing other plays. But hope you all enjoyed the video. Again, I really much enjoyed playing this deck. But thanks for watching to the end here. Let's move now to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for supporting there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.